Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to do something a little bit, well, a little bit dangerous.
I like dangerous.
We're going to question the way we think about thinking, specifically how we think about the past. And I don't mean a specific event, like who won a battle in 1066.
No, this is bigger. We're questioning the whole machinery of history itself.
Exactly. And I want to start with a picture that I think most of us have. When you pick up a history book, you imagine you're looking through a window.
A clean, clear window.
Right. And on the other side is the past. It's just sitting there, waiting for us to look at it neutrally.
That is the default setting for the modern mind, isn't it? We see ourselves as the subject, and history as this object over there. And the idea is if we just scrub the glass hard enough, we can see it exactly as it was.
We can be purely objective. But then this philosopher, Hans-Georg Gadamer, comes along, and he basically takes a hammer to that window. He asks, what if you're not outside the glass at all?
What if you're standing inside the reflection? Or even more, what if the window is actually a mirror?
And that's what we're diving into. Gadamer's idea that true neutrality is impossible.
And why, and this is the key part, why that's actually a good thing for the discipline of history.
So let's get right into it. The core of his argument seems to revolve around this one heavy word, tradition.
Tradition.
And today, we tend to think of tradition as something optional, like a costume you put on for a holiday.
Or a set of old rules you can choose to follow or ignore. We treat it like it's something external to us.
Right. I'm breaking with tradition. It sounds like an object I can hold or put down. If I don't like it, I can just walk away.
And Gadamer says this is a fundamental error. He argues tradition is always a part of us.
Always a part of us.
You cannot step outside of it. It isn't an object you hold. It's the atmosphere you breathe.
Okay, let's unpack that because it sounds a bit claustrophobic. If it's the atmosphere, does that mean I can never really look at history objectively? I mean, isn't that the whole point of being a historian?
Well, this is what Gadamer calls the outside fallacy. We think we can just step out of our culture, hover above it like a drone, and look down without any bias.
But you're saying that's impossible.
It's impossible because the very tools you use to think, your language, your concepts, your logic, all of it is given to you by history.
So even the words I'm using right now to question this, they have a history. I'm using a language I didn't invent.
Exactly. I mean, think about this example. An Ottoman historian sitting in a university today using all the modern scientific methods.
Right. They have spreadsheets, data analysis. They feel like a scientist in a lab coat, completely detached.
But look at the concepts they're using. Words like state, society, civilization.
Okay.
These are not neutral terms. When that historian uses the word state to describe the Ottoman government in the 16th century, they're importing a concept that carries all the baggage of the European Enlightenment and modern political science.
A 16th century Ottoman bureaucrat wouldn't even recognize the concept in the same way.
Probably not. So even when the historian thinks they're being neutral, tradition is working through them.
That's a bit spooky. It challenges the whole idea of being a self-made thinker.
Gadamer would say it's just existential. Tradition isn't a method we pick up. It is a mode of existence. We don't just have a past. We are our past.
Wow. We are our past. That really changes things. It means every time I judge a historical figure, I'm not on some mountaintop looking down. I'm in the same river of time.
Exactly. And this brings us to the big clash in Gadamer's work. He was fighting against a very popular way of doing history called Historicism, or Historismus in German.
Historismus. Sounds serious. So who are these guys? What was their whole deal?
Thinking 19th century German thinkers. Leopold von Ranke, Wilhelm Dilthey. They looked at the success of the natural sciences, like physics and chemistry, and said, we need to do that for history.
They wanted to make history a hard science.
Yes. And their goal, on the surface, was noble. They wanted to understand every historical period on its own terms, to avoid judging the past by our modern values.
Which sounds good, right? You don't want to judge a medieval peasant for not understanding germ theory.
It sounds perfectly fair. Their ambition was basically a kind of time travel. They believed if you studied enough, you could wipe away your modern self, get inside the head of a historical figure, and see the world purely as they saw it.
So become a blank slate,
Yeah.
a fly on the wall in the 16th century.
To delete the observer. But Gadamer just says no. This empathetic reconstruction is a total illusion. It's impossible.
Because we can't delete ourselves. I can't just turn off the fact that I know how the story ends.
You can't. We cannot delete our present reality. And trying to ignore your own perspective isn't being objective. It's just being blind to your own bias.
So it seems like historicism treats history like a dead object to be dissected, like a frog in biology class.
That's a perfect analogy. And Gadamer shifts the whole paradigm from historicism to what he calls hermeneutics. He says history isn't a frog to be dissected.
It's a voice to be heard.
It is a voice to be heard, a subject that speaks back.
I like that distinction. But it raises a tough question. If I can't get rid of my own viewpoints, doesn't that make me biased? I mean, we think of prejudice as a terrible thing.
And this is where Gadamer does something really interesting.
Yeah.
He actually reclaims the word prejudice.
There,
The German is Vorteil,
Vorteil.
literally prejudgment. And yeah, say we think of it as bigotry, but Gadamer says, no, a prejudice is just the unavoidable ground of understanding. You can't understand something from nowhere. You have to start from somewhere.
So my prejudice is just my starting position, the angle I'm standing at when I look at the painting.
Exactly. Without a starting position, you can't see anything at all. Now, the key is what you do with it. This is where the dialogue metaphor comes in.
Okay.
Understanding isn't collecting data. It is entering into a relationship, a conversation.
Our relationship feels very different from studying.
Think about it. When you talk to a friend, you come in with your opinions, your prejudgments. They come in with theirs. If you just shout at each other, nothing happens. But if you listen and their words challenge you, something changes.
Right, you have to be willing to be wrong.
You have to risk your prejudices. Let's apply this to history. Take a text by the poet Rumi.
The 13th century mystic.
Right. Now, the historicist would say, to understand Rumi, we must reconstruct the 13th century context, the language, the theology.
And once you have those facts, you're done. You know, Rumi, you put him in a little glass case in your mind.
And Gadamer says that's treating the text like a dead artifact. True understanding happens when Rumi's ideas about love or the ego speak to us here and now, when they challenge our modern distracted lives.
So it's not just about knowing the facts, it's about letting the 13th century punch you in the gut today.
Metaphorically, yes. It's a living relationship. The text affects you and you respond. You're not just observing history, you're participating in it.
That's a profound idea. It means the person doing the studying is actually changed by it.
If you aren't changed by history, you haven't truly understood it.
I love that. But I want to push on this. So we've established we can't leave our present horizon, our viewpoint, and we can't fully enter the past's horizon.
We are distinct, yes.
So are we just shouting across a canyon? How do we actually connect?
And that is the aha moment. This is where Gadamer introduces the concept of the fusion of horizons.
Horizont Verschmel song, that's a mouthful.
It is. But the idea is pretty elegant. Imagine your view of the world as a horizon, everything you can see from where you stand. The text from the past comes from a different horizon.
Okay, different vantage point.
Now, understanding isn't about you abandoning your horizon to jump to theirs. That's impossible. And it's not about dragging them into your horizon so they look just like you.
So what's the third option?
The third option is the fusion. Your horizon expands to include theirs. You create a new shared space where a new meaning happens.
So the meaning isn't just in the text waiting to be found. It happens in the collision.
It's dynamic. It's an event. And this is why history has to be rewritten by every generation. The facts don't change, but we change. Our horizon shifts, so the point of fusion shifts.
Okay, I can hear the critics already. Wait a minute, isn't that just relativism? Can't we just make history say whatever we want?
That's the biggest fear with this theory, for sure.
Yeah.
But Gadamer is very clear. This is not about making things up. It's not anything goes.
So how does he stop it from becoming a free-for-all?
Through what he calls effective history.
Yeah.
The idea that the past is real. It has weight. It pushes back.
It pushes back.
Think about it. You can't just make a text mean whatever you want. If you try to argue that the Magna Carta is a recipe for apple pie, the text itself resists you. Its grammar, its history, its structure. It proves you wrong.
Yes, it really is a dialogue, not a monologue. If I'm just making stuff up, I'm just talking to myself.
Exactly. You're wrestling with something real. And it brings us back to that first image. We aren't looking through a window.
We're standing in a hall of mirrors. Or maybe we're reading a book that is, at the same time, reading us.
That's a perfect way to put it. For Gadamer, studying history isn't just about cataloging what they did. It's about self-knowledge. It's about understanding who you are.
Because we are our past.
We are made of tradition. And that makes history feel so much more alive. It's a conversation that's still going on.
And like any good conversation, you shouldn't leave the table the same person you were when you sat down.
Exactly.
That is a powerful thought. So for everyone listening, here's the takeaway. Next time you read a history book or even just watch the news, catch yourself.
Notice when you're trying to be that neutral observer, cleaning the window.
And instead, ask yourself, what am I bringing to this? What are my prejudices, in the Gadamerian sense, that are shaping what I see?
And how is this story from the past challenging my present?
Don't try to escape your horizon. Try to expand it. So I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've talked about how our worldview changes the way we see the past. But flip it around. What parts of your life right now, your hopes, your fears, your politics in this very moment, are being shaped by the way you understand history? Are you reading history, or is history reading you?
That's the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.